Asterisk, asterisk, if a woman doesn't respect you, this one move changes everything. Asterisk, asterisk, you think the way to earn her respect is to do more, to prove yourself, to show her you're valuable. But here's the truth that's going to sting. The moment you started trying to earn it, you already lost it. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will save you years of confusion, frustration, and wasted energy chasing something that can never be negotiated. Respect isn't earned through performance. It's not a reward for good behavior. It's not something you accumulate by being useful, agreeable, or available. Respect is a reflection. It mirrors back to you exactly what you demand from yourself and the world around you. And if a woman doesn't respect you, it's not because you haven't done enough, it's because you've tolerated too much. Before we go deeper, hit that subscribe button right now. Not because I need you to, but because you need the reminder. You need this truth delivered to you consistently, until it rewires how you see yourself and how you move through the world. The algorithms will bury this if you don't take action, and you'll go right back to the same patterns that brought you here. Subscribe because you're committed to becoming the man who doesn't have to ask this question ever again. Now let's dismantle the lie you've been sold. You've been taught that relationships are built on effort, compromise, and understanding. That if you just communicate better, give more, listen harder, show up more consistently, eventually she'll see your value and respect will follow. That's the misconception, that's the trap. Because respect doesn't work like that. Respect isn't a destination you reach after proving yourself. It's the foundation. It's the starting point. Without it, everything you build is on sand, and every effort you make just digs you deeper into a hole you can't climb out of. Here's the hard truth. Respect is lost the moment you accept disrespect. Not when she tests you. Not when she challenges you. Not when she questions you. Those are natural. Those happen in every dynamic. Respect is lost when you tolerate behavior that violates your boundaries, and you do nothing about it. When you accept dismissiveness and stay. When you're treated as optional, and you make yourself more available. When your time, your energy, your presence is devalued, and you respond by offering more of it. That's called self-abandonment. And she can smell it. Let's dig into why this happens, because understanding the root cause is the only way you break the cycle. Most men enter relationships from a scarcity mindset. They believe this woman is rare, special, irreplaceable. They believe opportunities like this don't come around often. So they grip, they cling, they negotiate with their own self-respect because they're terrified of losing something they've elevated to a level it doesn't deserve. And here's what happens in her mind when you operate from that place. You become common, predictable, safe in the worst way. She stops wondering about you. She stops thinking about you when you're not around. You become the backdrop, not the main event. Because attraction, real attraction, lives in the space between certainty and curiosity. And the moment you collapse that space by being too available, too accommodating, too eager to please, the dynamic dies. Women don't respect men they can control. They don't respect men who need them. They don't respect men who betray themselves to keep the peace. This isn't cruelty. This isn't manipulation. This is biology, psychology, and millennia of evolutionary wiring. She's testing whether you have a center, whether you stand for something, whether you'll hold the line when pressure comes. And if you fold, if you adjust, if you compromise your own standards to keep her comfortable, she loses respect. Not because she's cold, but because you just showed her you don't respect yourself. Now let's talk about what this costs you. It costs you your peace. You start walking on eggshells, monitoring her mood, adjusting your behavior to avoid conflict. You become reactive instead of rooted. You stop being yourself because you're too busy being what you think she wants. It costs you your purpose. You start organizing your life around her validation. Your goals take a back seat. Your friendships fade. Your hobbies disappear. You shrink your world to fit into hers, and in doing so, you become less of the man she was initially attracted to. It costs you your identity. You look in the mirror one day and don't recognize the person staring back. You've become a shapeshifter, a people pleaser, a man who abandoned his own frame to live inside someone else's. And that version of you? She doesn't respect him. You don't even respect him. So what's the move? What's the one thing that changes everything? You stop playing the game. You stop trying to earn something that should have been present from the beginning. You stop negotiating with disrespect. You stop explaining, defending, justifying your worth. You stop making yourself smaller to make her comfortable. You stop waiting for her to see your value. You withdraw your attention, your energy, your presence from any space where you are not honored. Not as punishment, not as manipulation, not as a tactic to make her chase, but as a non-negotiable standard for how you allow yourself to be treated. This is the reframe. You are not trying to get her to respect you. You are simply refusing to participate in dynamics where respect is absent. There's a massive difference. One is external, one is internal. One makes her the authority, one makes you the authority. One is begging, one is boundaries, one is scarcity, one is self-respect. Let me paint you a picture of the man who embodies this. He doesn't argue about respect. He doesn't demand it. He doesn't explain why he deserves it. He simply exists in a way that makes disrespect impossible. When someone crosses a boundary, he doesn't get loud. He doesn't get emotional. He doesn't issue warnings or ultimatums. He just removes himself. Calmly, quietly, completely. His presence is not a given. It's a privilege. And he reserves it for people and spaces that match his energy. He doesn't chase. He doesn't cling. He doesn't convince. He offers his best self and allows others to choose whether they value it. If they don't, he doesn't take it personally. He doesn't collapse. He doesn't question his worth. He just redirects his energy toward people and pursuits that do value him. This man has a life that doesn't revolve around any one person. He has purpose that predates the relationship and will outlast it. He has standards that aren't flexible based on how he feels or how lonely he is. He has boundaries that aren't suggestions. He doesn't need her validation because he's validated by his own alignment with his values. He doesn't need her approval because he approves of himself. He doesn't need her to complete him because he's already whole, and that's exactly why she respects him. Not because he's perfect, not because he's without flaws, but because he's grounded, because he's unmovable, because his respect for himself is so solid that it doesn't leave room for her disrespect to take root. Now let's get tactical. Here's what you do, starting today. Stop overfunctioning. Stop doing more to compensate for her doing less. Stop filling the silence. Stop initiating every conversation. Stop planning every date. Stop being the only one invested in the connection. Pull back your energy to match hers, not to punish, not to manipulate, but to see what's real. If the relationship can't survive without you carrying it, it's not a relationship, it's a project. And you're not a fixer. You're a man looking for a partner. Stop explaining yourself. When you're disrespected, you don't owe a dissertation on why it's unacceptable. You don't need to teach a grown woman how to treat people. If she doesn't already know, she's not for you. State your boundary once, clearly, calmly. Then enforce it with your actions. If the behavior continues, you leave. Not with anger, not with drama, with clarity, with self-respect, with the understanding that some people will only respect you from a distance. Stop seeking closure or validation from her. You don't need her to admit she was wrong. You don't need her to apologize. You don't need her to understand your perspective. You need to honor yourself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve you. Closure is something you give yourself. It's the decision to stop waiting for external permission to move forward. It's the recognition that your peace is more valuable than being right. Redirect your energy. Stop pouring into an empty well and start watering your own garden. Go back to your purpose. Go back to your goals. Go back to the version of yourself that existed before you made her the center of your world. Hit the gym. Build your business. Reconnect with your brothers. Invest in your passions. Become so focused on your own growth that her respect or lack of it becomes irrelevant. Because here's what happens when you do that. You stop needing it. And the moment you stop needing it, you often start receiving it. Not because you manipulated the outcome, but because you became the kind of man who naturally commands it. Understand this. You cannot control how someone treats you, but you can control how long you tolerate it. You cannot force someone to respect you, but you can refuse to remain in spaces where you are disrespected. You cannot change her, but you can change your standards, your boundaries, your willingness to accept less than you deserve. And here's the part that might hurt. Sometimes the move that changes everything is walking away. Sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is recognizing that no matter how much you care, no matter how much history you share, no matter how much potential you see, if the respect isn't there, the relationship is already over. You're just delaying the inevitable by staying. And every day you delay is a day you're not available for the person who will meet you where you are, who will honor you without being asked, who will value you because they recognize your worth, not because you convinced them of it. This isn't about becoming cold. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about withholding love or building walls. This is about becoming so solid in your own self-respect that disrespect can't survive in your presence. This is about understanding that your peace, your purpose, your self-worth are non-negotiable. This is about reclaiming the power you gave away every time you tolerated being treated as less than you are. You are not a victim of her disrespect. You are a volunteer. Every time you stay, every time you accept it, every time you make excuses, you're choosing it. And the moment you realize that, the moment you own that, is the moment everything changes. Because now it's not about her, it's about you. It's about the standards you set, the boundaries you enforce, the respect you demand from yourself first. Stop waiting for her to change. Stop hoping she'll wake up one day and see your value. Stop believing that if you just love her hard enough, she'll love you back the way you deserve. That's fantasy. That's delusion. That's you avoiding the hard truth that you already know. If she doesn't respect you now, more effort won't change that. More time won't change that. More patience won't change that. The only thing that changes it is you changing how you show up. You changing what you tolerate. You changing your willingness to stay in dynamics that diminish you. You are the answer. You always were. Not her validation. Not her approval. Not her respect. You. Your commitment to yourself. Your refusal to abandon your standards. Your courage to walk away from what doesn't serve you, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when every part of you wants to stay and fight for something that's already gone. The move that changes everything is the move toward yourself, toward your purpose, toward your peace, toward the life you were building before you got distracted, trying to earn something from someone who should have offered it freely. That's the move, that's the power, that's the reset. If this hit you where you needed it, subscribe right now, not tomorrow, not later, now. Because you need this voice in your feed consistently. You need the reminder when you're tempted to slip back into old patterns. You need the truth when the world is selling you comfort. Subscribe because you're done settling, you're done shrinking, you're done negotiating with your own worth. You're ready to become the man who doesn't have to ask how to earn respect because he already embodies it. Welcome to the brotherhood of men who chose themselves. Let's build.